I should have seen it coming. Looking back now, the signs were everywhere. But when you're in it, when you've spent years convincing yourself that this is just how she is, you miss the obvious stuff. That Sunday morning started like any other. She was getting ready for brunch with her friends. I was supposed to drop her off, but she insisted I join them this time. Said it would be nice, that her friends wanted to see me. I should have known better. The place was busy. Modern setup, lots of natural light. That kind of spot where people take pictures of their food before eating it. Her friends were already there when we arrived. Laura, Christine, and Summer. I knew them well enough. We'd done this before, plenty of times. The conversation started normal. Work stuff, weekend plans, the usual. I ordered coffee and eggs, kept quiet mostly. That's what I'd learned to do over the years. Stay in the background, don't interrupt, let them have their time. Then Laura mentioned something about her husband forgetting their anniversary. The table erupted. Everyone had a story. Every husband was an idiot in some creative way. I sat there, drinking my coffee, waiting for it to pass. But my wife had other plans. She leaned back in her chair, that smile creeping across her face. The one I'd seen 100 times before. The one that meant I was about to become the punchline. "Okay, girls," she said, loud enough that nearby tables could hear. "What's the difference between my husband and a doormat?" The table went quiet. Everyone leaned in, waiting. Laura had this anticipating grin. Christine was already starting to laugh. Summer looked at me, then quickly looked away. My wife paused for effect. She was enjoying this. The setup, the attention, the moment right before the joke lands. That's when something inside me just stopped. Not snapped. Stopped. Like a switch flipping off. I put my coffee down. Slowly. Deliberately. Then I stood up. The table noticed. My wife's smile faltered just a bit, but she was committed now. Still waiting to deliver her punchline. I looked right at her. A doormat stays put when you walk on it. Her face shifted. Confusion, then concern. She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. "I'm walking out." I picked up my jacket from the back of the chair. The entire restaurant seemed quieter suddenly, or maybe I was just hyper-aware of every sound. My chair scraped against the floor. Someone at another table dropped a fork. "Wait, what are you doing?" she said, her voice higher now, nervous. I didn't answer. I just turned and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard her friends trying to process what happened. Laura said something I couldn't make out. My wife called my name, but I didn't stop. Didn't look back. The Florida heat hit me as I stepped outside. The valet looked confused when I asked for my keys. He probably wondered why I was leaving alone. I didn't offer an explanation. I sat in my car for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, engine running. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. I ignored it. 15 years. That's how long we'd been married. 15 years of being the punchline. The boring husband. The guy who couldn't do anything right. Always good for a laugh at dinner parties, brunches, family gatherings. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed home. My phone kept buzzing. Text after text. I could see the notifications piling up on my dashboard display, but I didn't read them. When I got home, I went straight to the bedroom and pulled out the suitcase from the closet. Not for me. For her. If she wanted to treat me like a doormat in public, she could find somewhere else to wipe her feet. I started packing her things methodically. Clothes, shoes, toiletries. Everything went into the suitcase. I wasn't angry. That was the strange part. I was calm, focused, clear-headed for the first time in years. My phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. A text came through. Stop being ridiculous. It was just a joke. Just a joke. How many times had I heard that line? How many times had I let it slide, convinced myself I was being too sensitive, that I needed to lighten up? I sat on the edge of the bed, her half-packed suitcase open in front of me. The house was quiet, peaceful even. Another text. "Where are you?" Everyone's asking what's wrong with you. What's wrong with me? Not what's wrong with her. Not an apology. Just confusion that I didn't play along this time. I finished packing the suitcase, zipped it up, and set it by the front door. Then I changed the code on the electronic lock. Simple. Effective. The calls kept coming. I turned my phone to silent and set it face down on the kitchen counter. I made myself lunch. A sandwich, some chips, a cold drink. I sat at the kitchen table and ate in silence. It was the most peaceful meal I'd had in years. Around 2 in the afternoon, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Then the sound of the door handle being tried. Once, twice, then furious knocking. "Open this door right now." I stayed at the kitchen table. Took another bite of my sandwich. More knocking. "I know you're in there." This is insane. I got up, walked to the door, but didn't open it. Your suitcase is right here, I said through the door. I'll set it outside. What are you talking about? Open the door. I opened it just enough to push the suitcase out, then closed it again. Reset the lock. The silence that followed was brief. Then the yelling started, loud enough that I was sure the neighbors could hear. I didn't care. I walked back to the kitchen, poured myself another drink, and sat back down. This was going to be a long afternoon. But for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't the one being laughed at. And absolutely nobody was laughing now. The yelling outside eventually stopped. I heard her car start, then pull away. The house went quiet again. I spent the rest of Sunday organizing. Not just physically, but mentally. I needed to think clearly, plan carefully. This wasn't about revenge. This was about finally drawing a line that should have been drawn years ago. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. First time in 3 years. I had things to handle that couldn't wait. First stop was a law office downtown. I'd looked up divorce attorneys the night before, found one with good reviews. Harrison York. His secretary squeezed me in for a consultation at 10. The office was professional, no nonsense. Exactly what I needed. York was in his 50s, gray hair, direct manner. He listened while I explained the situation. How long have you been married? He asked. 15 years. Any kids? No. He nodded, making notes. Property. House is in both names. We bought it 8 years ago. I've been making the mortgage payments from my account, but technically it's joint. Other assets. Savings account, also joint. 2 cars, both paid off. Mine's older, a 2015 Nissan. Hers is a 2019 Mazda. York looked up from his notes. Florida is an equitable distribution state. That means fair, not necessarily equal. The fact that you've been paying the mortgage matters. Do you have documentation? Bank statements going back 5 years. I can get more if needed. Good. What does she do for work? She works part-time at a dental office. Receptionist. 20 hours a week, maybe. And you? I'm a logistics coordinator. Full-time. Been there 11 years. York leaned back in his chair. Based on what you're telling me, this should be straightforward. No kid simplifies things considerably. The question is whether she'll contest it. She will, I said. Guaranteed. Then we prepare for that. I'll need you to gather all financial documents. Bank statements, mortgage papers, car titles, credit card statements. Everything. Can you do that? Already started. He smiled slightly. Good. Most people come in here emotional, unprepared. You seem to have your head on straight. I've had 15 years to think about this. I just didn't realize it until yesterday. I left his office with a retainer agreement and a clear list of what I needed to do. It felt good. Forward momentum. My phone had been blowing up since Sunday. I'd counted 43 missed calls and 68 text messages. I hadn't read most of them, but I could see enough in the preview notifications to know the pattern. First came anger, then confusion, then attempts at manipulation. Now we were apparently at the involving other people phase. Her mother called twice. I didn't answer. Her sister called. Ignored. Then, surprisingly, my own brother called. Hey, what's going on? Grant said when I finally picked up. Rachel called me. She's saying you locked her out of the house. Rachel, my wife. It felt strange hearing her name said out loud by someone else. That's accurate, I said. Man, what happened? She said it was over some joke at brunch. It wasn't about a joke. It was about 15 years of jokes. Silence on his end. Then, okay, you want to explain that? I did. I told him about the brunch, but also about everything else. The dinner parties where I was the punchline. The family gatherings where she'd share stories about my supposed incompetence. The consistent, endless pattern of public humiliation disguised as humor. Grant was quiet for a long time after I finished. I never realized, he said finally. I thought you guys were just, I don't know, playful. There's playful, and then there's being someone's verbal punching bag. I'm done being the latter. So you're actually divorcing her? Already met with an attorney this morning. Damn. Okay. Well, for what it's worth, I'm with you. If that's what you need to do, do it. That was the difference between my brother and most people. He didn't try to fix it, didn't suggest counseling, didn't tell me I was overreacting. He just supported the decision. Thanks, I said. You need anything, let me know. After we hung up, I turned my attention back to the documentation. I spent hours going through files, printing statements, organizing everything into folders. York wanted thorough, and that's what he was going to get. Around 6 in the evening, there was a knock at the door. Different from yesterday's pounding. This was calmer, more controlled. I checked the peephole. Rachel, but she wasn't alone. Her sister Summer was with her. I opened the door, but kept the security chain engaged. "Can we talk?" Rachel asked. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "About what?" "About this. About us. Please, can we just talk inside?" "No." Summer stepped forward. "Come on, be reasonable. She's your wife. She's the person who publicly humiliated me yesterday. That's what she is." "It was a joke that went too far," Rachel said quickly. "I admit that. I'm sorry. But this? Changing the locks, ignoring my calls, talking about divorce? That's extreme, is it? Because from where I'm standing, what's extreme is spending 15 years treating your husband like he's worthless and expecting him to just take it. I never said you were worthless. You didn't have to say it. You showed it. Every time you made me the punchline. Every time you rolled your eyes when I talked. Every time you complained about me to your friends while I was sitting right there." Summer tried again. "Look, marriages have rough patches. You two can work through this. We're not working through anything. We're done." Rachel's face hardened. "You can't just decide that on your own." "Actually, I can. And I did. You'll be getting papers soon. Make sure you have an attorney." I closed the door, reset the chain, walked back to the kitchen. More knocking. Then Rachel's voice, louder now. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe, but I doubted it." I made dinner, ate it slowly, cleaned up. Normal things. Routine things. The kind of things that feel like control when everything else is chaos. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Laura. What you did yesterday was incredibly rude. Rachel is devastated. You owe her an apology." I stared at it for a moment, then blocked the number. Another text, different unknown number. "Hey, it's Christine. I don't know what's going on with you, but you embarrassed Rachel in front of everyone. That wasn't cool." Blocked. They could say whatever they wanted. They weren't there for 15 years of brunches, dinners, and parties. They weren't the punchline. I was done being anyone's joke. And if that made me the bad guy in their story, I could live with that. Tuesday morning, I went back to work. My boss, Everett Greer, noticed something was different, but didn't pry. I appreciated that. I wasn't ready to discuss it with coworkers yet. The paperwork from York's office arrived by courier around noon. Petition for dissolution of marriage. It felt surreal seeing it in writing, but also clarifying. This was happening. No more theoretical discussions or angry threats. Actual legal proceedings. I reviewed everything during my lunch break, signed where indicated, and scheduled the courier to pick it up that afternoon. Rachel would be served within 48 hours. My phone stayed quiet most of the day. I figured Rachel was regrouping, planning her next move. I was right. Wednesday evening, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I checked the peephole first. My father-in-law, Robert. Great. I opened the door. "Robert, can I come in?" I considered saying no, but Robert had always been decent to me. Whatever Rachel had told him, he deserved a chance to hear my side. Sure. He came in, looked around like he was checking if Rachel was hiding somewhere, then sat down in the living room. I sat across from him. "Rachel called me," he started. "She's very upset. I'm sure she is. She said you locked her out of the house, filed for divorce, won't talk to her. Said this all started over a joke at brunch." That's one version. Robert studied me. "What's your version?" I told him. Not angrily, not defensively, just factually. I explained the pattern, the years of public humiliation, the constant jokes at my expense. I explained how Sunday wasn't about one comment. It was about finally recognizing what I'd been accepting for too long. When I finished, Robert was quiet for a long time. "I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong," he said finally. "My daughter has a sharp tongue. Always has. Her mother's the same way. They think it's clever, that it's just their sense of humor. It stops being humor when the other person isn't laughing." Fair point. He rubbed his face. "So there's no fixing this? No working it out?" "No. You seem pretty certain." "I am." He nodded slowly. "Then I won't try to change your mind. But I will tell you this. She's going to fight you on everything. The house, the money, all of it. She's angry. And when Rachel's angry, she doesn't think straight. I'm prepared for that." "You have an attorney?" "Already retained." Robert actually smiled a little. "You don't mess around, do you?" "Not anymore." He stood up, and I walked him to the door. Before he left, he turned back. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry it came to this. You've always been good to her, better than she probably deserved." After he left, I felt something I hadn't expected, validation. Robert wasn't taking sides, but he wasn't dismissing me either. That mattered more than I thought it would. Thursday, Rachel was officially served. I knew because my phone exploded around 2 in the afternoon. The messages were vicious. Pages of text, all caps in places, accusations flying. I was vindictive. I was cruel. I was destroying our marriage over nothing. How dare I embarrass her like this? I read them once, then archived the thread. York had told me to keep everything for documentation, but I didn't need to engage. An hour later, a different message. We need to talk about the house. I'm not leaving it. My attorney says I have rights. I forwarded it to York without responding. His reply came back quickly. Good. Let her attorney contact me. Don't engage directly. Friday afternoon, York called. Her attorney reached out. Barbara Giles. I know her. She's aggressive, but reasonable. They want to negotiate a settlement. Already. Rachel wants this done quickly. Probably worried about how it looks to drag it out. Her attorney suggested mediation next week. Fine by me. One thing though, Giles made it clear Rachel wants the house. She's claiming it's her primary residence, and you forced her out. I laughed. Couldn't help it. I didn't force her anywhere. She left on her own Sunday, and I changed the locks because it's my house too. That's what I told her. Florida law is clear. Both parties have equal right to marital property until a court says otherwise. She can't claim you illegally locked her out when her name is still on the deed. So what happens now? We prepare for mediation. Bring all your financial documents. We'll present a fair split. House gets sold. Proceeds divided based on contribution. Cars, savings, everything else split equitably. If she wants to fight it, we go to court, but that costs her time and money. Think she'll be reasonable? You're paused. Based on what Giles told me, she's angry, but she's also scared. She didn't expect you to move this fast or this decisively. That's good for us. Angry people make mistakes. That weekend was quiet. No visits, no calls, no surprise confrontations. I spent Saturday cleaning the house thoroughly, organizing paperwork, and finally allowing myself to think about what came next. Sunday morning, exactly 1 week after the brunch, I went for a drive. Ended up at Fort Lauderdale Beach. I parked, walked down to the water, and just stood there for a while. A week ago, I was sitting in a restaurant, being humiliated in front of strangers. Now I was here, alone, but not lonely. Free, actually. My phone buzzed. A text from Grant. How are you holding up? Better than expected. I typed back. Good. Let me know if you need anything. Serious offer. I appreciated that. My brother wasn't trying to fix things or give advice. He was just there. I stayed at the beach for another hour, then headed home. When I got back, there was an envelope taped to my front door. I pulled it down, opened it. A handwritten letter from Rachel. I know you won't answer my calls, so I'm writing this. I don't understand what happened to you. The man I married wouldn't do this. We've had our problems, but every marriage does. What you're doing is vindictive and cruel. If you think you're going to take everything in this divorce, you're wrong. I've sacrificed just as much as you have. I deserve half of everything, including the house. My attorney will make sure of that. If you want to destroy what we built, fine. But don't expect me to make it easy for you. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just threats and entitlement. I folded the letter, put it in my documentation file, and went inside. Mediation was scheduled for Wednesday. For days away. I was ready. Wednesday arrived faster than I expected. The mediation was scheduled for 10 in the morning at a neutral office downtown. York met me in the lobby 15 minutes early. Remember, stay calm. Don't get emotional. Don't engage in arguments. Answer questions directly. Let me handle the rest. Got it. We walked into the conference room. Rachel was already there with her attorney, Barbara Giles. A mediator, an older woman named Mary Thornton, sat at the head of the table. Rachel looked different. Tired. Her makeup was heavier than usual, probably trying to hide the fact that she hadn't been sleeping well. She wouldn't look at me directly. Thornton started with the standard speech about good faith negotiations, mutual respect, finding common ground. I listened politely while reviewing my folder of documents. Let's begin with the primary marital asset, the house on Oak Avenue, Thornton said. Mrs. Harrison, your position? Giles spoke up. My client wishes to retain the house. She's lived there for 8 years, considers it her home, and was forcibly removed by her husband without warning. York didn't miss a beat. That's inaccurate. Mrs. Harrison left the property voluntarily on Sunday, March 10th. My client changed the electronic lock code, which is his right as a co-owner. She was not forcibly removed from anything. He locked her out of her own house, Giles countered. Their house, you're corrected. Both names are on the deed. Both parties have equal legal right to the property until a court orders otherwise. My client has been residing there and maintaining mortgage payments from his personal account for the duration of the marriage. He slid a stack of bank statements across the table. As you can see, every mortgage payment for the past 8 years has come from my client's checking account. Property taxes, homeowner's insurance, maintenance costs, all paid by him. Giles reviewed the documents. Her expression tightened slightly. My client contributed to the household in other ways. I'm sure she did. That's why we're proposing an equitable split, not demanding full ownership. The house gets sold, proceeds divided based on documented financial contribution. My client paid approximately 78% of all housing costs. He's willing to settle for 65% of the sale proceeds. Rachel finally spoke. That's not fair. I live there too. I made it a home. York looked at her calmly. And you'll be compensated fairly for that. 65-35 is more than generous given the payment history. Thornton made notes. Let's move to other assets. 2 vehicles, correct? This part was straightforward. My Nissan was older, paid off, worth maybe $8,000. Her Mazda was newer, also paid off, worth around $15,000. We'd each keep our own cars. The savings account was where it got interesting. Joint savings currently holds $42,000, York said. My client proposes a 50-50 split, $21,000 each. Giles shook her head. My client believes she's entitled to more given that she'll need to secure new housing. She'll need housing with her $21,000 plus her share of the house sale, York said. That's substantial. Rachel leaned forward. I only work part-time because we agreed I would. Now you're punishing me for that. I'd stayed quiet up to this point, but something in her tone triggered a response. We agreed you'd work part-time because you wanted to, I said evenly. Every time I suggested you go full-time, you said you didn't want to. That was your choice. You made me feel guilty about wanting time for myself. That's not true, and you know it. Thornton held up a hand. Let's keep this productive, please. Giles tried a different angle. My client has emotional damages to consider. The public humiliation of being abandoned at a restaurant, the sudden filing of divorce papers, being locked out of her home. These actions have caused significant distress. York actually smiled. Are we discussing emotional damages now? Because my client has extensive documentation of public humiliation spanning 15 years. Would you like to go down that road? The room went quiet. Giles glanced at Rachel, who had gone pale. What documentation? York pulled out another folder. Text messages from friends and family referencing my client being the subject of jokes. Social media posts where Mrs. Harrison publicly mocked her husband's supposed incompetence. Witness statements from individuals who attended social gatherings where she consistently belittled him in front of others. He slid the folder across. If we want to discuss emotional damages and distress, we have a much stronger case. I watched Rachel's face as Giles reviewed the documents. She clearly hadn't expected this. Hadn't thought I'd been keeping track, documenting, preparing. Where did you get these? Rachel asked, her voice shaky. Screenshots from your public social media. Text messages you sent from the joint phone plan. Statements from people who witnessed your behavior, including your own father. Her eyes widened. My dad gave you a statement? He confirmed that you have a pattern of using humor as a weapon. Yes. He didn't want to, but when pressed about whether he'd witnessed you publicly belittling your husband, he answered honestly. Rachel looked like she'd been slapped. Giles was flipping through pages, her expression growing more concerned with each one. Thornton cleared her throat. Perhaps we should take a short break. We stepped out into the hallway. York looked satisfied. That went well. You think? She didn't expect documentation. Most people in her position assume the other party won't have proof, won't have witnesses. You did your homework. That matters. 15 minutes later, we reconvened. Rachel's demeanor had completely changed. The anger was gone, replaced by something closer to defeat. Giles spoke carefully. My client is willing to accept the proposed division of assets. 65-35 split on house proceeds. 50-50 on savings. Each party keeps their vehicle. She has one condition. She wants this finalized quickly and quietly. No public court proceedings. York looked at me. I nodded. Agreed. We can have final documents drafted by end of week. Thornton made it official, outlining the agreement, confirming both parties understood and accepted the terms. Rachel signed without looking at me once. As we gathered our things to leave, she finally spoke directly to me. I hope you're happy. I met her eyes. I'm not happy. I'm just done. Was it worth it? Destroying 15 years over a joke. It wasn't a joke, Rachel. It was a pattern. And yes, ending something that was destroying me slowly is absolutely worth it. She didn't have a response to that. York and I left the building. The sun was bright, the afternoon warm. I felt lighter somehow. Congratulations, York said. This could have dragged on for months. Instead, we're looking at finalization in a few weeks. Thanks for your help. Just doing my job. But between you and me, you handled that better than most clients. You stayed calm, didn't get baited into arguments, came prepared. That's why you won. I drove home thinking about that word. Won. Had I won? Maybe. Or maybe I just finally stopped losing. Either way, I was moving forward. And that was enough. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, signatures, and logistics. The house went on the market immediately. York had recommended a solid agent, and within 10 days we had an offer. Not amazing, but fair. Enough to move forward. Rachel and I communicated only through our attorneys. She picked up the rest of her belongings on a scheduled day when I made sure to be at work. No drama, no confrontation, just efficient separation. I started looking at places to rent. Nothing fancy, just something clean and affordable. Found a decent townhouse closer to work, 2 bedrooms, quiet neighborhood. Signed the lease and moved in on a Saturday with help from Grant and a couple guys from work. This is nice, Grant said, looking around the empty living room. Fresh start. That's the idea. We spent the afternoon moving furniture, setting up the basics. By evening, the place looked livable. Grant ordered pizza, and we sat on my new couch eating and watching a game on TV. How are you feeling about everything? He asked during a commercial break. Honestly, relieved. I keep waiting for it to hit me, the regret, or whatever. But it hasn't. I just feel lighter. That's good. Means you made the right call. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. This is Christine. I owe you an apology. Laura told me what Rachel's been saying about you to people, and I went back and looked at old pictures from gatherings. You're right. She was always making you the joke. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. I stared at it for a moment, then showed Grant. Huh, people are waking up. Guess so. I typed back. I appreciate that. No hard feelings. The response came quickly. For what it's worth, a lot of us are rethinking how we saw your marriage. She's been trying to make you look like the villain, but it's not working. People remember. That was interesting. I'd assumed Rachel would control the narrative among her friends. Apparently not. Over the next few days, I heard similar things from unexpected sources. A former co-worker of Rachel's reached out through social media. An old college friend I hadn't spoken to in years sent a message. The pattern was consistent. People were reconsidering what they'd witnessed over the years. I didn't engage much. Didn't need to defend myself or explain. The truth was standing on its own. At work, things improved too. Everett pulled me aside one afternoon. I don't know what's been going on in your personal life, and you don't have to tell me. But I've noticed you've been sharper lately. More focused. Whatever changes you're making, keep it up. Thanks. I appreciate that. Also, we're expanding the logistics team. Opening a senior coordinator position. You interested? Definitely. Good. Put together a proposal showing how you'd handle the increased responsibility. I'm not promising anything, but you're first on my list. A promotion, more money, better title, new challenges. A month ago, I would have talked myself out of even applying, convinced Rachel would find some way to undermine it. Now, I was ready. I spent that weekend working on the proposal, researched industry standards, outlined efficiency improvements, projected cost savings. When I finished, it was solid, professional, the kind of work I should have been producing all along, but had been too beaten down to attempt. Monday morning, I submitted it. Wednesday, Everett called me into his office. This is excellent. Thorough, well-researched, practical. The position's yours if you want it. 15% salary increase. Starts next month. We shook hands. I walked out of his office feeling something I hadn't felt in years, proud of myself. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at a decent steakhouse. Nothing fancy, just a good meal in a quiet booth. While I was eating, I noticed someone staring at me from across the restaurant. Laura, Rachel's friend from the brunch. She hesitated, then walked over. Can I talk to you for a minute? Sure. She sat down across from me, looking uncomfortable. I need to apologize. That day at brunch, I was laughing along with Rachel. I thought it was harmless, just her being funny. But after everything that's happened, I've been thinking about all the other times she did that. It wasn't harmless. It was mean. She's been calling me, trying to get sympathy, acting like you just snapped out of nowhere. But the more she talks, the more I realize she still doesn't get it. She still thinks this is about one joke. It's never about one joke. Laura nodded. I'm sorry I was part of it. If I could go back and shut it down that day, I would. I appreciate you saying that. She stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, you look better. Happier. Lighter somehow. After she left, I sat there for a while, thinking about that word again. Lighter. Multiple people had used it to describe me. Maybe because it was accurate. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday afternoon. You're called to confirm everything was signed, filed, official. Congratulations. You're officially single. Thanks for everything. My pleasure. You were one of the easier clients I've had. You stayed focused, didn't let emotion drive decisions. That's rare. After we hung up, I sat at my desk at work, looking at the email notification from the court. Dissolution of marriage, finalized. 15 years, reduced to a legal document and a case number. I didn't feel sad, didn't feel angry, just finished. That weekend, Grant invited me to a barbecue at his place. I almost declined, social gatherings still feeling weird, but I went anyway. It was good. Normal people, normal conversations. Nobody treating me like a joke or a project, just regular interaction. A woman named Mary was there, friend of Grant's wife. We talked for a while about nothing important. Work, hobbies, the weather. Easy conversation. So are you seeing anyone? She asked at one point. Just got divorced actually. Like, very recently. Oh, sorry. Don't be. Best decision I've made in years. She smiled. That's an interesting way to put it. Long story. Short version. I spent too long accepting less than I deserved. Not doing that anymore. We talked for another hour. She gave me her number before leaving. No pressure, just an opening if I wanted it. Driving home that night, I realized something. I wasn't the same person who sat in that restaurant 4 weeks ago. That version of me would have stayed quiet, taken the joke, gone home, and pretended everything was fine. This version walked out, filed papers, rebuilt, moved forward, and I wasn't going back. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Rachel at a home improvement store. I was picking up supplies for some work on the townhouse. She was in the lighting aisle. We saw each other at the same time. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she walked over. Hey, she said quietly. Hey, how have you been? Good. You? I'm managing. She looked tired, older somehow. I heard you got promoted. I did. Silence stretched between us. She shifted her weight, clearly wanting to say something, but not sure how. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, she finally said. About the things I said and did. My therapist says I used humor as a defense mechanism, that I was probably dealing with my own insecurities. Probably. I'm sorry. For all of it. I know that doesn't change anything, but I wanted you to know. I looked at her, really looked at her. The apology seemed genuine, but it was also 3 months too late and 15 years overdue. I appreciate you saying that, I said. I hope therapy helps. She nodded, understanding that was all she was going to get. Take care of yourself. You too. She walked away, and I went back to shopping. No anger, no satisfaction, no unfinished business. Just two people who used to be married and weren't anymore. I paid for my supplies and drove home. The townhouse was coming together nicely. I'd repainted the living room, installed new shelves, made it mine. That evening, Mary came over for dinner. We'd been seeing each other casually for a few weeks. Nothing serious yet, just seeing where it went. You seem distracted, she said over pasta. Ran into my ex today. Oh, how was that? Fine, actually. She apologized. I accepted it. We moved on. That's mature of you. I'm not angry at her anymore. I'm just done with that chapter. Mary smiled. I like that about you. You don't carry baggage around. I used to. Carried it for 15 years. Not doing that anymore. Later, after she left, I sat on my balcony with a beer, looking at the city lights. My phone was quiet. My mind was clear. My life was mine. The guy who sat in that restaurant letting himself be humiliated was gone. The guy who accepted disrespect because it was easier than confronting it didn't exist anymore. I'd walked out of that brunch, and I kept walking. Built something better. Became someone better. A doormat stays put when you walk on it. I didn't stay put. I left, rebuilt, and moved forward. And I'd never been happier.